Hello, thanks for looking in on my channel. I'm going to read you an extract from my book today, You the Sentencer, and it's about a mental health case. I call the chap Mr. South, and unfortunately he has episodes of mental illness, and ideally people such as Mr. South need to be diverted out of the criminal justice system and kept within the care of the mental health people, where they deserve support. So anyway, what happened was I was asked to write a court report for Mr. South, who went up to the local mental health unit, psychiatric hospital, asked for support, and they declined support. And he then did acute attention-seeking behaviour I describe in the report, where he did handbrake turns, he did donuts around the car park of the hospital. So he appeared at Crown Court for dangerous driving. And here's an extract of what happened. He was made subject to a probation order, so he committed this handbrake turns and donuts and things outside the hospital when he was subject to a probation order, which makes the offence a bit more serious. So the earlier probation order that Mr. South was made subject to happened in 1993 following an incident in a shop. So I described the incident. The shop incident on the 8th of June 1999 resulted in Mr. South appearing at Harperbury Magistrates Court on the 8th of November. At that time of the hearing, Mr. South was described as being well and a model resident at the psychiatric hostel where he was receiving respite care and regular supervision. He also had a mental health social worker and the support of an outreach team to help with the transition from hospital to independent living. Arrangements were in place for Mr. South to be placed on the hospital's register, which would involve the regular medical reviews and community psychiatric nursing support. I did not propose the imposition of a probation order, as there seemed to be a high level of support for Mr. South, and I had doubts about his ability to comply with national standards, with the emphasis upon offence-based work, discipline and regular reporting. Nevertheless, a 12-month probation order was imposed. From the outset of the order, I concentrated my efforts on liaising with the other agencies working with Mr. South. In my meetings with Mr. South, we discussed problems of concern to him and looked at positive ways of dealing with them. Some, such as access to his children, have been difficult. It soon became apparent that Mr. South's planned move to a local authority flat was not going smoothly, and he became anxious about this. At about the same time, Mr. South made a serious allegation concerning one of the residents at the hostel, and he told me he became angry when he felt it was not taken seriously. Although I have limited knowledge of mental health issues, I felt at the time I was witnessing early warnings, signs of another episode of illness, and expressed my concerns to the other agencies. During December, everything began to deteriorate rapidly. The community support team declined to assist Mr. South any further when he became argumentative with them. No progress was made in assisting Mr. South install himself in his flat, and following a disruptive incident, Mr. South was asked to leave the hostel. Mr. House's social worker was transferred to another area, and social services took the decision not to reallocate the case to another social worker. By the end of the year, the probation service were the only remaining agency still working with Mr. South. Mr. South began to behave very strangely. He reported to probation dressed in his pyjamas one day, stating bombs had been planted in his bedroom. I took him to the psychiatric unit, who turned him away, stating there was nothing wrong with him. On another occasion, he insisted in trying to clean everything in my office with a tissue, stating he needed to clean any bombs away. As he appeared to be experiencing another psychotic episode, I immediately drove him to the psychiatric unit, where after a 6-hour wait, he was assessed by a psychiatrist who turned him away, stating there was nothing wrong with him. Mr. South appeared at Harperbury Magistrates Court on Boxing Day for breach of the peace at the hospital, following him being turned away again. Probation made arrangements to place Mr. South at a hostel for the homeless. Although Mr. South had been allocated a flat, it was unfurnished, without amenities and in a poor state of cleanliness and disrepair. The plan for him to stay at the homeless hostel whilst we tried to get his flat ready. Staff at the hostel expressed concerns that Mr. South was mentally unwell and took him to be assessed at the hospital, only for him to be turned away again. In trying to organise Mr. South's flat, I enlisted the support of one of Mr. South's relatives. We attained a grant from the Mental Resources Panel. However, these funds were inadequate, and I was fortunate to receive assistance from local churches who donated second-hand furniture for the flat. Once ready, we focused upon helping Mr. South make a successful start in his flat. Circumstances have conspired for me to become Mr. South, only worker. This has on occasion required considerably more input than is normally afforded to people on probation, thus representing a strain in terms of time. Mr. South has on the whole been polite and cooperative with me, and instances of aggressive or argumentative behaviour have been rare. Mr. South seems to manifest bad behaviour at times of stress, when he feels he is losing self-control, and this seems to act as a means of attracting attention to himself. I am currently working towards assisting Mr. South behave more appropriately and to become more self-sufficient. I think it would be a mistake for him in the long term to become overly dependent upon probation. So, what do you think? Sad story, but there you are. He had 4 or 5 or different people, agencies working with him, and within a month or so of him being made subject to probation, his social worker left and was not replaced. He was booted out of the ex-psychiatric patients hostel. The other mental health social worker stopped working with him, and there was a team that was supposed to help him reintegrate back into the community, and they also stopped working with him. There's tension there, isn't there? And he was hard work, you know. I doubt a modern day probation officer would even have the time to drive him up and sit with him at the hospital. I don't know how I did it really, to be honest, because I didn't have the time either. But it's tough and frustrating, because clearly he was mentally unwell, and you know, he was being turned away. And there seemed to have been an agenda that he should be kept within the domain of probation. But what's probation supposed to do? You know, how can I deal with his mental health problems? Anyway, that's what I felt at the time. But this is the sort of thing that happens. There have been other cases that I've had where people have been diagnosed as having behavioural issues rather than mental health issues, perhaps. It's not an exact science, mental health, by any means, but people do need support in life, and whatever support this guy had seemed to just all fall apart for him. And it's tough, you know, and we did our best for him. We did our best. And there you are. The judge wasn't too impressed with what happened, but, you know, anyway. All the very best. Do read my book to see what happened to the outcome of Mr. South. It wasn't such an unhappy ending, but I left you halfway through when, at my low point, when I felt all on my own with him. Anyway, all the very best now. Cheerio. Bye-bye.